Welcome to Everything CPA and Private Equity, where we unpack the evolving relationship between accounting firms, private equity, and other strategics. I'm David Wolfskehl, a partner at Whitman Transition Advisors.
And I'm Phil Whitman, CEO of Whitman Transition Advisors. And we've chatted with more than 150 private equity groups. We've actually closed over 40 transactions with those private equity groups. And we're bringing you firsthand insights from the front lines.
And whether you're exploring your first deal, putting your toe in the water, refining your strategy, we're here to guide you with real stories, expert advice, actionable takeaways. Let's dive in. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Everything CPA and Private Equity. We're here to educate leaders in our professions about the great opportunities that are going on. We're here to give you different points of view so that you can make the best decision and educate yourself. So excited that we're here today with Richard Kopelman of Aprio. We love Aprio. We've done a number of deals with Aprio. We know the culture of Aprio. So Richard, thank you for spending some time with us today.
David, Phil, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And Phil, why don't you introduce Richard? I know you probably have the longest relationship, and let's start talking.
Yeah, so I think it all started with a conversation and it just went uphill from there. So very excited, as David said, Richard, to have you here. And despite the fact that I've probably heard your story and the Aprio story at least 100 times, I never am bored of hearing it another time. So, but first and foremost, why don't you start how long ago you took over as managing partner, where the firm was from a revenue perspective, sort of the journey, from the very beginning of time.
From the very beginning of time, Richard.
Understood. So after spending 20 years at Aprio, I became CEO and managing partner a little more than 12 years ago. In 2000, my first year, we were a $53 million firm. We were single office, 250 people with 30 languages on staff. So we had a lot of very complex clients, and we were, I would say, kicking our coverage in terms of the types of clients we were serving at that size and time. And fast forward today, we've made major investments in the infrastructure and the business types of services we've offered is triple what it was in 2013, or the number of services is triple from 2013 through today. Our language count is now at 60, so we have 60 languages at Aprio, and we've gone from that one office to 30 offices across the United States, and we'll probably be close to 35 or 40 by the end of the year, along with a team in the Philippines and Medellin, Colombia, that is numbering close to 400 today. We also went through a name change. Phil, I know you love that part of the story. We went through a name change in 2017 from HAW to Aprio, which means head and heart. Comes from the Latin root word of cap and aria, the Italian song of the hearts. And we bring that to life with 31 fundamentals of behavior at Aprio. Culture is very important to us. And I also had the opportunity during that time period to change my name personally, because certain states in the U.S. require that the name of a CPA firm be that of a partner or retired partner of the firm. And since Aprio is a manufactured name, the only way to fix that, I found out, because you never know what you don't know until it's upon you. And that came upon us, and it took me 4 weeks in the state of Georgia to change my name. So Aprio is a second middle name for me today. And yeah, that's a little bit about where we've been and what we're doing. We're about 10x the size we were, a little bit more than 10x the size we were when I took over in 2013. And it's been a lot of fun.
And one of the things I love about Aprio is the culture, right? And so why don't you share a little bit about how important the culture was to help support that growth?
Culture's everything. I've always believed that culture is the stories people inside and outside the company tell about the business and its people. And our 31 fundamentals give us that opportunity every week to talk about ways that we're living that fundamental. This week's fundamental, for example, is be proactive. So we're being proactive right here, you're being proactive producing the podcast. And it is really very important to us. And every merger and transaction and lateral partner hire we've made, and we've made a lot of them, especially in the last 6 months, we look at culture first and foremost in our process, because we have been on Glassdoor's best places to work. We've been best places to work on the list of USA Today for the last 3 years, including 2025, which we're super excited about. We've had a three-peat on that award, and in every one of our markets, we are either there or on our way to be a best places to work in that marketplace.
And one thing
just-
that I saw is that it's culture first, right? I've been in enough meetings, right? That's not an afterthought. That's a core thought, and that's something that we love about Aprio.
Well, as you've experienced, we start every meeting with the fundamental of the week and a little 1-minute discussion about it to share those stories and ideas about how we're working with each other, serving our clients, how we're living our best day, and making sure that we're delivering and over-delivering to our clients and to our people.
Love it.
So, Richard, without giving up any trade secrets, obviously it doesn't take you 3 years, to accomplish a merger or an investment in another CPA firm. How is it that you evaluate culture? So I'm the managing partner of a CPA firm, and I'm 10 million in revenue. And you know what? You and I really hit it off. There's so many things that go into culture, but is there any secret sauce? Because as far as I know, and unless you share with me differently, you've always had successful mergers. I've never read or heard about, the XYZ firm, they came on board and it actually was a cultural misalignment and they headed for the hills. So is there a secret sauce? Is there software that you use to evaluate? I mean, how do you evaluate culture?
So I'll start with the results and I'll work backwards a little bit. To your point, we've had very successful mergers. Our merger partners have experienced outpaced growth in the 25 to 30% range for the 2 to 3 years post merging in with Aprio, and then sustainable organic growth alongside of us, which has been at 15% for the last 6 years, been able to achieve that sustainable growth afterwards. You can't do that if you don't have alignment and you don't have relationships that are being built within the firm. So for us, it starts first with the beer test. Is this someone I want to have a beer with, I enjoy spending time with, and where does that go from layers down? Also through a lot of probing questions and finding out what is most important to the partners that are joining the firm. And are those things that are important aligned with us? Do you want to build a business together with Aprio? And we like to call it the mosaic of Aprio. Because if we look at the leadership of our firm today, it is not made up of legacy Aprio partners or individuals. It's made up of an aggregate of all of the firms that have joined us. And we have been building this business together alongside of one another and in a way where we're all sharing fairly with one another as we achieve success. So it starts with those alignment of the answers to those questions and the beer test itself. On a formal basis, we do use an industrial psychologist on all of our mergers and all of our lateral partners, as well as our internal promotions. We make sure that, and it's not a pass fail. Some people, like to joke about it. Well, did I pass the test? It's really about how are we all going to work together? Because one of our fundamentals is valuing differences, and everybody is a little different. They come to the world or come to the working world with their lived experiences, and they see the world through their lenses based on all the experiences they've had in their lifetime. And that's how they're going to show up every day. So the question is, how are we all going to work together versus is it a pass fail? And that's what we focus on. What are the things that we all need to do to be successful with one another? And then, of course, it's all about the growth mindset at the end of the day. Do you have a mindset of abundancy, or do you have a mindset that's fixed and a mindset that is always about what's going to, and we're an organization of a mindset of abundancy. And at the end of the day, I do think mindset can solve for a lot.
We're in alignment with that. We are a people first organization. And I think that's part of the reason why we like Aprio so much. We're in alignment with that.
David, I was going to say, Richard, you're speaking my language, especially, people ask, is the cup half full or half empty? And my answer is usually it's overflowing. We just need to go out. It's like you said, I mean, what is your this week's be proactive? Okay. So being proactive is, what seats are your partners planting their butts in? What meetings are they going to? Are they creating opportunities? Are they seeing, that there's the ability to help everyone out there, especially if they're not doing this. If they look to the right and they look to the left and they see all the different specialties that you have at your firm. I do have a question for you. So you've 10x'd it. Okay. Do you have a personal goal? I mean, in your runway to your personal finish line, and I'm not sure if there's any mandatory retirement, but I'm sure you're already grooming a successor or multiple successors for your role. But can you take Aprio to one day being a $5 billion firm? I mean, obviously going from 52 million to 600 million. Someone back in the day would have said, "You're never going to do that, Richard." What's your personal goal? I mean, when do you want to get off the merry-go-round?
Well, I'm having a great time, so no getting off the merry-go-round anytime soon. I'm loving what I'm doing, and I love what we're accomplishing every day, because we're changing lives both internally and externally at Aprio, and we're supporting people to achieve, what that we're achieving their objectives, which is great. And my favorite time of year is when we get to promote partners. We just promoted 12 at the beginning of this year, and I love it when we get to, I get to work with somebody who's now achieved a level of success to get to that level within our profession. And I often refer back to, when I get questions like this, I refer back to a quote by Arthur Blank, co-founder of Home Depot, owner of the Atlanta Falcons. Arthur Blank's got a quote in a friend of mine's book, and the quote says, "There's no finish line in business."
Oh, I love that.
So I'm not thinking about where the finish line is or what that goal is or the personal objective. I just want to keep building a great platform in Aprio. Aprio is designed to be a platform, and designed to be a platform that will be around for a long, long time. And we have today, outside of our partner group, over 800 people that are participating at the manager level and above in ownership in the firm. And it's a great program and a great plan that we have, and it is built to last.
So that's great, Richard. And so let's move to private equity. And we call it private equity. It's really strategics. There's all kinds of different flavors. And, we heard you say we're going to remain independent. That's not a game that we were interested in playing. And then life changed, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about that transformational thinking on Aprio and your part?
Yeah, the world is never going to be as slow as it is right now in terms of pace of change. And we saw, just like we did in 15, we were Atlanta only in 2015, well, actually all the way through 2017. So for 60 plus years, we were a single office firm. And we saw an opportunity in the marketplace, and we saw a shift and a change. And we decided to go do transactions and expand our physical footprint, start to build out a national firm. And we did 30 plus transactions through the summer of 2024, right before we completed a transaction with Charles Bank. And we went ahead and became an independent firm with a financial sponsor. That's how we think about it at Aprio. And we think about it in terms of platform, independent firm with a financial sponsor. And we saw, the reason we went forward to do that is we saw changes in the marketplace. We saw what was about to happen, what was happening. We wanted to make more investments. And I think the profession, the way we operate today, the economic model, hampers investments to grow a meaningful professional services organization. We decided to go through the transformation. We needed a catalyst. And that catalyst was in the form of a recapitalization to move from the deferred comp model to a fair value model with EBITDA that allows us to make appropriate investments in technology, in people, in expansion within the organization, and take some chances, take calculated risks, and some of them are going to pan out, and you're going to hit home runs, and others you're not. But you know what? It only takes a 350 to get into the Hall of Fame.
You obviously took this step, and I have to imagine, getting all your partners in alignment that it was the right thing to move forward with. One of the things that we frequently hear is, but when you make when you allow private equity to make an investment in your firm, you're screwing over the young people because they're never going to finish the sentence. Obviously, it's my personal opinion that if I could be Richard Kopelman or a partner at Aprio or one of those 800 folks that you spoke about that will have multiple bites in their lifetime, I'd much rather be that younger person. But why don't you talk about it? Because, obviously there were risks that you took. What if these younger people did have that closed mindset and thought, hey, they're selling out and I'm never going to finish the sentence. But, how did you overcome that? And, why don't you talk a little bit about that sort of as a message to all the other firms out there that have that closed-minded thinking that it's not good for the young folks?
Yeah, our young partners found it to be very attractive. And I'll quote one of my partners, Kayla, who is now a leader and is leading our Mid-Atlantic region. And Kayla said, so you're getting rid of our bougie Social Security system for the operating model of a real business. And that's Kayla's a young partner in our firm, came in via a merger in 2023 and is part of the fabric of the leadership team at Aprio. And that was the consistent message. We ultimately had or I shouldn't even say ultimately, we had a 100% vote to approve the transaction when we went through it last year. And that was all partners. Didn't matter if you were 35 or you were 64 years old or 65 years old. Or even older, actually. We had a 100% vote yes to complete this transaction. And without getting into too many details, I'll just say we designed what we believe is a unique model and program that is providing substantial value and will continue to provide substantial value, not just to the partners that came over in the transaction, not just the partners that completed the transaction back in August of 2024, all the partners to come in the future. And we've just built a unique model that is fair and reasonable and gives people line of sight to a healthy financial personally.
So, Richard, one of the things that we talk about is that we like different, right? And we like to show people different opportunities. You talk about yourself as an independent firm with a sponsor, right? I don't hear that on a regular basis. So why don't you give some more details or mindsets about what that means and the differences?
Yeah, I think it's our relationship with our financial sponsor and the structure of that relationship and how we're running the business that leads us to, and the financial model, which leads us to talk about it in that way. And that's how we feel with our partner. We're 8 months in as of the time of this podcast, and it's been a great relationship. They've done everything that they said they would do, and they have been there for us when we've needed them. They've been great supporters of the organization. I would add that they ask really good questions, insightful questions. It's, having people from outside the profession sitting at the table, asking interesting questions, working with the CEO of the fund itself, that runs a professional services business. I mean, that is what the fund is, right? The fund management company is a professional services business, working with the former CEO of GE, who's on our board, and now my personal coach, John Flannery. These are things that you can't do on your own. And you can't make, or you won't make, firms won't make the investments that we continue to make in a lot of different ways under the old model.
Let me ask you this, speaking of investments, you've always been very entrepreneurial. And I know Aprio has invested in, FP&A software and technology companies. And, it's obviously these companies, make it into the big time and there's a nice reward for all the partners. You invested in the firm foundation, and most recently in the news, there was discussions, or actually not discussions, but an announcement that you've now acquired. I don't even know what the right term to use is, the old RSM Alliance. Now the Aprio Alliance is considerably larger. Did you have any concern that when you inked this deal with Charles Bank that someone was going to hold their thumb on the top of your head and, you weren't going to be able to continue to do the creative things that most other firms don't do.
Well, the plan and design on the front end was to do more creative things. And we presented our 2030 strategy as part of our process to go through the recapitalization. And we're executing that strategy today. The strategy we're executing is the strategy that we developed, that we created, because we know this profession and we know the marketplace. We're always working on improving and further developing it, and it's never set in stone. Hasn't been set in stone for the last 10 years that I've been leading the business and running it with first a 2020 strategy, then a 2025, and now the 2030 strategy. And so we're always tweaking it, of course. That is a constant in terms of change. And you know what? My responsibility every day for the last 12 years has been to deliver value to our partners. Okay. So we have 250 partners that are active working in the business, and we have one additional partner, which is our outside partner in Charles Bank. And I feel an obligation to deliver to all of them. And so that hasn't changed.
So let me ask you this. How at all, and maybe you just answered it, when I had a conversation with, Charlie over at Eisner Amper, he said, for most the rank and file partners, it's business as usual. For me, I now have a board that I have to report to, and I have to prepare for a meeting every month. Similar for you? I mean, what's different in your day-to-day? I know you see them as just another partner that you're delivering results to, but obviously, there's now probably someone that you really have to continue every day when you wake up and do your thing to impress the hell out of them.
Well, we have a quarterly board meeting, and we have regular touch points that are, that's generally my agenda. We're working, closely day to day with each other as needed. I will say this. And this is probably the biggest change. We've moved faster today, significantly faster. We were moving fast before, but now we're moving faster.
Do you feel like you have a boss now?
I don't feel like I have a boss today any more than I had a boss before. I mean, it's a little different because my bosses before, as my 18-year-old, when he was 12, we were riding in the car and he said, "So who do you report to?" I said, "Well, I report to the board." And he said, "Well, who's on the board?" And I listed out all the partners on the board. And he said, "Who do they report to?" And I said, "Well, half of them report directly to me because they're running practices." And it doesn't take a 12-year-old long to figure out. He looked at me, he said, "That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. How does that even work?" So I was used to having a board made up of people that I grew up in the firm with or that merged in. Deep personal, long-standing relationships. And this relationship obviously is not as long and as deep as those are because we're not working together side by side in the trenches every day. So that's a little bit different.
So Richard, as we wrap up, any additional thoughts, anything significant that we missed about the Aprio story?
I don't know. We could probably go on for a long time about that.
We will bring you back, Richard.
Is there anything else I want to tell about the Aprio story? I think the best chapters are yet to be written.
Love that. And the current chapters are pretty darn good already. So that we can see and we know.
Yeah.
We're having fun, and thank you for having me on today. It's great to be with the two of you, and you guys have been a great great partner to Aprio, and look forward to continuing the relationship.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, Richard, I'm sure there are days when you wake up and you feel like maybe I should pinch myself, as I never dreamed of how far I would take this, although you do have that mindset of abundance. But, with, obviously the rear view mirror, hindsight, being 2020, is there anything you would have done differently looking back right now?
I really don't. Again, I think that's fixed mindset. So I don't spend time thinking about what could have been or should have been or would have been. And every day doors open and every day doors close. And I think that happens for a reason. And I think we make our own luck, and we have to knock on a lot of doors to do that.
Yes. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And I believe that is a truism in the world, right? People who aren't proactive, talking about today, amazing that they don't create as many opportunities as the people who are proactive. I mean, it's fact, I think.
There was a study done in an article published about 20 years ago about a study on lucky people. And I think it was either in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. And the study was that people weren't any more lucky than anybody else. They just had more chances to be lucky.
Yep.
And I would be willing to bet that those chances came about by being proactive and showing up in places that the unlucky didn't.
Could be.
Well,
I feel very
Well,
fortunate, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all, and thank you very much.
Well, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe, like us. If you have questions, we're here to educate you. We obviously have access to a lot of people. We see a lot of things because we are a leader in the M&A and the CPA marketplace. I hope you found this interesting. We love Aprio. Culture first is such in alignment with how we look at the world at Whitman Transition Advisors as well. Richard, really, really appreciate the time this morning, and everybody else, go crush your day.
Thank you for tuning into Everything CPA and Private Equity. Every episode brings fresh insight. However, there's always more to talk about. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you watch podcasts. Have a question or topic you'd like us to cover? We'd love for you to reach out to us. Together, we will help you navigate this dynamic landscape so that we can help you achieve your goals. Until next time, keep making moves that matter. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.